Guys, this is LOISYCA'S Fashion TV. Today we have our palazzo trouser that I promised on my previous video that I'm gonna drop for you guys today. And as you watch this video, don't forget to subscribe and also like and comment. And this video is all about a palazzo trouser, and also we're going to drop on our next video how to cut a complete trouser or a complete pant. Okay guys, you know what palazzo trouser, you know how it looks like, right? Okay, so we have it here display and on our overlay. So please, our palazzo trouser or boot size trouser. Okay, as you watch this video, you're going to understand how this video is all about and how you can benefit a lot about how to cut a palazzo trouser. Here is the illustration on how to cut a palazzo trouser, and we have this fabric here with us. This is our complete fabric, but please, this is a paper I want to use for this illustration. So you have to ignore any number you are seeing on this tape rule. You have to ignore it because the fabric I'm using for this illustration is very small. But what you should have in mind is wherever I place this tape rule or any part I'm placing the tape rule, I'm gonna explain everything or the details about about it, the numbers that you should use, or the way I'm using it, the way I'm calculating it. I'm going to use all the numbers, but you should have to ignore the numbers on my tape rule because it's not going to match with this little fabric I have here. So please, you go ahead and watch to the end of this video. You're going to enjoy every details about how to cut this palazzo trouser. First of all, before you cut a trouser, you know sometimes we used to have a trouser length fabric. Like a trouser length is like a 45 inches by width. Trouser length is 45 inches by 60. So if you have such fabric, it's gonna be enough for you to use it for a trouser. For anybody, that is why they call it a trouser length. But a palazzo, why you want to make a palazzo trouser? Remember, palazzo trouser is that trouser that is going to give, you have to give attention to the hip side. You give fitting on the hip side and drop it down. You have to make it to be free or loose to the boot size. That is why they call it a boot trouser or boot size trouser or a palazzo trouser. Palazzo trouser is just the funky name of it. So you have to follow up as you watch on LOISYCA'S Fashion TV to understand every details about how we cut this palazzo trouser. From there, you can now take the idea on how we cut this palazzo trouser to take it to understand more about the next video that is coming up on how to cut a complete pant or a trousers too. Okay, here we go. Here is our fabric. We have this complete fabric that we want to use. You can take a fabric of like 2 years or more than that. Whenever you want to cut trousers, you can take like 2 years of fabric. Okay, now as long as you have your 2 years of fabric or more than that, or it depends on how you want the flare to flow, so you have to use this fabric according to how you want the flare to flow. But before you do that, you have to create your pattern. You have to study this pattern. This pattern is this very one I want to illustrate for you here. So if you follow up this illustration, you are going to do well in fashion industry. Okay, here is my fabric, and I have this fabric. I have to cut it. I've already cut it into two. Before I complete it, I have to fold it on a different ways. This is one way I want to fold this very pattern. I have to fold one part of it into two. I have to fold one part of it into two. Then I have to fold the other into two. So you have, this is how we stretch our fabric. For example, we have here as our waist part of it. Okay, let's take here as our waist part. Here is gonna be our waist part. Why here is our length. Here is the waist. Why here is the length part of it. So I'm not going to fast forward this video. I want to make it to look very natural so that you'll be able to understand everything. I want it to be just like a live something to you. Let it be real to you so you'll be able to understand. Okay, I have my tape rule here. I have my French curve. These are the tools you need when I want to cut a trouser. You have brought your French curve. Your French curve will be able to help you to construct the crotch part of it. That is the French curve. It will help you to French curve the crotch part of it. It will equally help you to do some straight parts of it. So that is why you need a French curve when you want to do this drafting. Okay, let's go ahead with our project. We want to use the waist part of it. For example, here is the way you take your tape. Place your tape this way on this very upper part. We are going to the waist part of it, and before we measure out the waist part of it, we have to remove the crotch part. First and foremost, we have to remove the crotch part. Like, we want to pattern it with 4 inches. Sometimes we use 5 inches if the person is a very big person. So here, for example, we have our crotch from here to here. We have our crotch. So from the crotch, you have to take the measurement, the point you mark the crotch, you have to take the measurement down. Like if you have 4 inches, you have to continue having the 4 inches to the length. You have to create your crotch length like 13 or 12. So we have created our crotch, but it's based on whom you're making the trousers for. So you have to create the crotch. The crotch length is here. So I have to use my ruler to take my crotch length. I have to rule out my crotch line. Then my hip line is from the waist to the hip point. So you know, crotch is always close to the hip. After the hip, we have the crotch. Here is a line for the hip. Okay guys, from this measurement here, from here to 4 inches or 5 inches, bring the width of the crotch. How to take out the crotch? You have to line it to the crotch length. From the width of the crotch, as in the part we use and pattern the crotch part, we have to take our waist measurement. If your waist is something like 36, divide by 4. So that is why you really need to have that measurement. Any measurement you have, don't forget to divide it into 4. Then take each part of it, like 36 divided by 4 is 6. Then is 9. Then you take the 9 inches and add your sewing allowance. Then add your inseam allowance. If it can be 1 inches or 2 inches, you can add, but don't forget, whenever you're sewing it, make sure you sew it out according to the way you added it. Then here is our waist measurement. Here is the waist, W, waist. Here is hip, H. Here is crotch, C. So we have this measurement. Then on the hip part of it, you take the measurement of your hip, like round hip. If the round hip is 48, divide by 4, that is 12. You still add your sewing allowance. The sewing allowance, you know, the crotch part, you have to add an allowance like 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch. Then on the side, you can equally add 3/4 inch. That is, to me, that is how I sew my trousers. I use 3/4, don't use 1/2 inch to add my allowances. So the 3/4 inch, that is to add total of 1.5. Then you have to take your ruler. If you have, assuming you have 4 inches to create the width of your crotch, like 4 inches or 5 inches, that is what you're going to take below. You will take it on the downside to create the bottom of your trouser. That is how you take it below. So take your ruler and rule it. Put your ruler, place it on the end of this crotch point and rule it straight to the point. You take the bottom of your trouser measurement. Then you know we are making a palazzo. It's not a fitted trouser or a flare trouser. This is a palazzo trouser. It's a bugos trouser that the boot side, the hem, the bottom part used to be very wide. Then you have to give the fitting from the waist and on the hip side. So you have to take attention on the hip, take the measurement on the hip very well, take the measurement on the waist very well. That's what we have already did. Then you have to take this ruler, French curve, take your French curve and get your waist to the hip. Your hip French curve point, take your waist to the hip. Then you now take the straight part, point it from the hip, below. Remember, this is the bottom part of this trouser, the bottom part of this pant. So what you have to do, if the bottom, you want it to be very wide, sometimes we take the measurement of the bottom part. Sometimes we can say it to be 20 inches. That is 20 by 20. That is very wide, like 40 by round measurement. Then anything else, you can make it to be extra large. You can have a normal measurement, like sometimes you can have like 24, you divide by 2, that is 12. So whatever thing you have, take the measurement on the bottom part of the trouser. So it's gonna be wide. Then you have to place your ruler from the point of the hip, a straight ruler. If you have measured the point you want it to be wider, then you have to take your ruler straight. Another thing is, if you're making a straight trouser, this is how you're going to take this part, like a straight trouser. You have to take the measurement on the bottom part where you have created this line out, where I have created the inseam line. Let me trace it out. Let me trace it out with this dashed line. Like for example, let's say here is how we trace and sew the inseam. Then from this inseam, this is where you have to take the measurement of the bottom of any trouser you're making. The bottom is the downside of the leg, how round it is, how you want it to be shaped. You have to take the measurement. Then when you take the measurement, you have to concentrate on this point with the laps. But this very trouser we are sewing now, this palazzo, does not have measurement of a lap or nails. We are not measuring the nails, we are not measuring the laps, we are not measuring the thighs part of it. Rather, it is only the waist and the hip. Don't forget. Then on the hip point, you take your ruler wide, measure it out like an A shape, like an A shape. Then another point you have to take your attention to is the crotch part. This is how you place your French curve. This is how you place your French curve to remove this crotch, or you can equally place your French curve this way to get your crotch. Remove this curve. So you have to carve out the crotch, French curve it to be very curved. Then after that, this is the front part of this cutting. I have to cut it out so that I'll be able to see how it looks like. Let's go there. Only the front part you have to cut. You have to cut only the front. You can't cut the front together with the back. You have to carefully cut the crotch. This is it. After cutting, we have to place this front pattern to get the back pattern. Remember, this front is 2. It's going to be 2 layers. Then you have to place it to get the back pattern. How do we create the back pattern of this palazzo trouser? Now, the only difference between the front pattern and the back pattern of a palazzo trouser is only this inseam line. Only the inseam line. The inseam line have to have an additional of 1 inch. An additional of 1 inch. You see from here, you have to add 1 inch. you have to add 1 inch, so an additional of 1 inch on the inseam line. Then on the crotch part, you have to follow it up. Then you still have to curve your crotch, French curve it. Don't make the French curve to be close to the front part, but on the waist part of it, you have to make it to be closer a bit. You have to make it to be closer a bit. You have to slant it. You have to slant it. Then I have to cut it now. You see the difference between the back crotch and the front crotch. This is the back side, even the bum side. You have to cut it out. Then you have to cut the side. You have to cut the side equally. So this is it. Back crotch, front crotch, front. This is the front pattern of the trousers. This is the back pattern of the trousers. Then you have to cut the part of the inseam. You have to cut it. So that means that the back part is wider than the front part. Do you know the reason why we used to make this front crotch to be inside a little bit? It has to be inside to bring very good fitting on the front look. When someone is putting on trousers, the front look of it have to look very shaped. It has to be well quartered. Then I want to quarter the crotch. I want to quarter the crotch because it's gonna be very long if you leave it like this. So I have to quarter it with the inseam allowance of 1 inch that I've used to trace out the sewing inseam line. So I have to remove it because the back side have already gotten the inseam allowance. The back side is wider and we have already added 1 inch. We have already added 1 inch. That 1 inch is going to help to join these both together, front and back together. So that's why the reason we used to add this extra. So now we have added the extra, we have to remove it from the front side. It will help the trousers or the palazzo trouser or whatever to be well quartered. So here now the crotch on the front side now is now shorter than the back side. It will make, when someone is wearing it, it's going to bring a very good look. It's not going to bring, as in, it's not going to pop out on the front side. A female trouser don't need to have that pop out thing. Even a male trouser don't need to have that pop out thing. It's not good at all. It's not giving at all to have that pop out thing. Any trousers you see like that is quite wrong. It's a wrong sewing. It's a mistake from the maker. So if you want to be a good designer, keep following LOISYCA'S Fashion TV. Keep watching how to cut, our narration, how we narrate things on how to sew on LOISYCA'S Fashion TV, and also how we construct everything at all you need. So don't forget to go to my comment section and drop a comment on anyone you really want to see that you have not seen before, you want me to help and explain. You can drop on the comment section to remind me what you really need on the next video. Please don't forget to subscribe on LOISYCA'S Fashion TV. Always comment, share my video, please. Thank you.